But okay, let's talk then floor and ceiling, right? Like, let's start with the bad, right? Like, what have we seen the last year or two that at least make it somewhat reasonable that a team moved on from him? Because we it's well established, right? Multiple coaches, multiple front office regimes. There's definitely a level of onus that goes on the player, but it's not like this is on him directly, right?
Right.
So what have we seen? What looks bad and what's looked okay so far? And then we'll spin into okay, here's where he could be based on what we saw draft here.
Yeah, I mean, so since he's been drafted and since he came over and played in the AHL, he looks to be a really solid 2-way D-man. He was able to defend well enough, but then, when he gets his call-ups to the NHL, and this has been the thing that's the one kind of mark against him since his draft, well, just before he got drafted, is like just the foot speed. And there's been plenty of times in the NHL you've seen him get burned wide, and that's just something that probably isn't all that correctable. At that point, you're probably working more on just like anticipating early, like position stuff, and just mitigating the risk of like players taking him wide. And again, I think it was Portsline put out that like the major concern or like the biggest reason that they decided to move on was that lack of foot speed and the skating in general, which again, to me is pretty crazy. It's like, fuck it. Like, let's just part ways with our 6th overall pick. He also mentioned the fact that like he's been getting loud about not being in the NHL. He's convinced he's an NHL player. And like, I guess it may have like rubbed some of his teammates the wrong way in the process. But like, again, unless it's like drastic and something that like is legitimately everyone's like, shut the fuck up and he won't, like whatever, then I'm like, all right, if there's just no way that like that could work, then fine. But it's the foot speed and the skating and just like his struggle defensively when called up to the NHL, I guess. I mean, that's just the big reason that he like got moved. And the fact that on like a pretty brutal Columbus Blue Jackets team since he got drafted, including their defenseman that they brought in, like he wasn't able to like crack that full time, even as like a 6. That's always going to be concerning anyways. But like clearly the situation just wasn't right for him there. But it's the big thing with him is the skating and like the struggling to defend that in an NHL level when he has been called up. Because in the AHL, he's been a beast. You see like the skating concerns pop up still there, obviously, like it pops up anywhere, but he's played really good hockey in the AHL since he's came to Cleveland. He's like over a half a point per game since he's been there. So
see, defensemen aren't allowed to have time to develop. They're actually the easiest position to transition into the NHL with. I'm not sure if you heard this.
Yes,
people are
Brock Faber. Like that's how everyone.
That is a problem. He's really set a really bad bar. Like poor Zeev Buyam. If he doesn't score like 2 goals a game, people are going to think he's a bust.
This is terrible.
Now, if I told you like 2 or 3 years ago that the same organization would draft David Jiricek and give up on him within 2 years, but also give a 4x4 to Erica Branson, would you believe me?
Blow my mind. I like sometimes like. And that was the same summer that Philly gave Delorier a 4-year deal. That was like a weird time in general. But
was it the same year?
I think it was the same offseason.
Because it was the same year that Johnny Gaudreau got signed there. Because I know that was like the thing, like, oh yeah, buddies, like,
right,
sure, cool, but
okay,
like,
all right.
Yeah, people want to get mad about Billy's 4x4s. They're all better than a good Branson 4x4.
That one was legitimately. Remember, I would go on here and just be like, "Let me read you the 5-on-5 underlying numbers from Columbus Blue Jackets last night." When he was on the ice, the Columbus Blue Jackets had 4 shot attempts and 37 against, and he was on the ice for 5 fucking goals against, and he was straight. They went 2 for 2 on the PK. He literally did none of his job. It's insane. 4x4. Unbelievable.
Yeah. But all right, let's talk then ceiling. Like, if things go the right way, he comes in, he's got the right, like, locker room feel. The organization empowers him, fixes some of the things that are fixable, and, you know, ends up being a big piece. I mean, you got Boyum and Faber long term. If this guy pans out, what are we looking at? Like, how could he project based on all the awesome things you were seeing going into his draft?
Yeah, so he's a player that, like, the fact that he's as big as he is and he's got the offensive toolkit that he has, he looks to be, and especially here in Minnesota where he doesn't have to be like a number 1 or a number 2, he can easily be probably like I would put him like a 4, a 3-4 that's going to give you good offense, and he's going to be able to be used significantly more offensively. Since again, you already have guys like Bouyum, like Faber's just still putting up offense, which is just, I mean, interesting. So he's not going to have to be like the go-to really anywhere, but like he's shown that he can quarterback a power play too. Like we've talked about this. Again, you already have Bouyum, like you just drafted him. So again, like second power play, but like you're gonna be able to lean on him offensively. And I mean, when you look at, I mean, even just taking this year, there's like a couple defensemen that have put up any offense in Minnesota. So the fact that you can like rely on a guy like Jiricek to give you some secondary offense from the back end, you know, again, like he's super skilled as far as like breaking the puck out. He's got a really good first pass. It's really hard to forecheck despite the fact that he's not the greatest skater in the world. And when he decides to be physical, he can fucking kill guys. So he is a very physical, big, probably number 3, 4 that gives you good offense. Well, you don't really need to like force him to do a ton of the defensive duties that like he's been struggling with so far. I think you also just give him like, you have more time to work with him on that part of the game too. So, I mean, he looks to be a second pair guy who's going to give you good offense, and there should be room to grow defensively, at least like becoming significantly better than he's been so far. Again, it's also weird when he's just like sitting in the press box for weeks, sitting him back down to Cleveland, maybe giving him one NHL game, setting him back down, calling him up just in the press box again. So he hasn't really, this year specifically, he hasn't really had a great opportunity to like get any kind of momentum whatsoever as far as like ice time goes. But I mean, like watching him playing in his draft year and the year before in the Czech Republic in that pro league, he was dynamic offensively and like physical to the point where it was also becoming a concern where it was like the decision making here. He's like, let me go decapitate this guy while we're up 5 with 2 seconds left in the game. I'm gonna baseball swing this guy in the face. And it was just like, this kid's 17. It's like he's just doing that on the ice, playing pro hockey in Czechia. That's nuts. But again, it's a really good fit in Minnesota, given the fact he's not going to have to be like the go-to D-man really in any of their situations. He can just really thrive, not having to go up against top lines, being able to be given a pretty significant leash offensively, and you buy yourself time to work on him on the defensive stuff. So again, it is the perfect fit as far as if he's going to get traded out of Columbus. Like Minnesota was the spot that made the most sense. And again, in terms of like quantity, yeah, they may have given up a lot, but like you didn't give up any of your top prospects as far as like recently drafted guys.
Yeah.
1 first-round pick in 25 and like 3 in 2027. Like not a crazy price to pay. It's a bad return on investment if you're Columbus. Like that's a bad, like, especially again the fact they turned down better offers. Like that's just crazy to me.
Yeah.